Good afternoon, everyone. Today, our government introduced the Building a More Competitive Economy Act in partnership with the great ministers across government, many of who are joining me here today. They have helped strengthen this bill and build this bill so that we have a path forward to our plan to protect Ontario. Over the past 7 years, our government has made significant progress in cutting red tape, speeding up approvals, and supporting people and businesses. We are leaders in regulatory modernization, saving people and businesses nearly $1.2 billion and 1.8 million hours every year. But the threat to our workers and the economy from south of the border has reinforced the need for urgent action. We need to do more, even more to protect our economy and workers from external threats, including President Trump's tariffs. And the best way to do this is to make Ontario the most competitive place in the G7 to invest, create jobs, and do business. The bill I just introduced today helps deliver on that goal. In partnership with ministries across government, we're building a stronger, more resilient economy in Ontario and in Canada. We're supporting labor mobility across the country, making it easier for people to get on their job faster in Ontario. We're supporting Ontario workers and businesses through government procurement, and we're taking a comprehensive look at every single economic development focused permit in government to make sure they aren't standing in the way of businesses looking to invest and create jobs here in Ontario. I know workers and businesses and business owners are worried about how tariffs and trade wars are going to impact their jobs and communities. And our message is clear. Our government will continue to be there. We're already delivering nearly $30 billion in support for tariff-impacted workers and businesses, which are helping keep businesses open and keep workers on the job right now. But we are also focused on long-term plans to protect Ontario by building a stronger, more resilient economy that can attract jobs, invest, and stand up for anything that comes our way for decades to come. We're taking decisive action to protect Ontario's future, and we're excited about the opportunities this legislation will help to unlock for workers, businesses, and communities across the province. I want to thank the great team behind me and our entire government who helped build this bill together, and together we will protect Ontario. With that, I'm happy to take questions.
We'll now go to questions. If reporters could line up at the microphone behind me, please identify yourselves by name and outlet, and it will be one question, one follow-up.
Minister, are you concerned, or maybe you're not concerned, but the last time you had a red tape cutting government that talked about water protection, we ended up with Walkerton. You're talking about making it faster to get water permits. How do we prevent another Walkerton?
Look, what's in this bill is actually getting water protected faster, but I will let the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks elaborate on that.
Well, you used to be the Minister of Environment, though, Minister.
Thanks, Colin. Yes, I'm the Minister of the Environment, Conservation and Parks. And it's very, very important that we learn from history. That's why we have the Ontario Water Quality Agency and the Walkerton Water Control Agency as well. These arose out of the O'Connor inquiry 25 years ago. And if we learn from history and we make sure we don't repeat the mistakes of the past, we'll get it right. It's always about balance, of course. That balance includes protecting water, clean drinking water for all, making sure, though, that we focus on not having unnecessary repetition when it comes to the testing process or the monitoring process. That's all this is, streamlining, making sure we get it right, but first and foremost, making sure we protect clean water source protection and clean drinking water for all.
For Minister Sarkaria, what is the speed camera piece doing in a bill about economics?
Well, look, this is the vehicle in which we will use to ensure that, as per our commitment a couple of weeks ago, that we repeal the legislation and we move forward. in ensuring that, we're protecting the pocketbooks of Ontario, but also focusing on safety. Our focus has always been on preventing speeding at the point of entry into one of these zones, not by a ticket 3 weeks later, but this is a legislative vehicle that we'll use to ensure that gets done, and that we're working with municipalities as well to see how we can put forward some more work around traffic calming measures as well.
Minister, you and the Premier have said repeatedly that speed cameras are a problem. They're a cash grab. But if they're a problem, aren't they a problem that your government created by enabling municipalities to have them across the province and moving these regulations forward in 2019?
Well, look, the first set is enabled in 2017 by the previous government. Look, it is what it is right now. We've made a decision as the government to move forward on this legislation to remove them. We believe that getting a ticket 3 weeks later is not the best way to prevent people from speeding. You see examples in Toronto, for example, cameras producing 70,000 tickets a year, been there for 3 years now. So it's clearly not having the intended purpose in that specific area. So if we really want to focus on that cause of reducing speed, we're seeing that it's not effective in some of these areas. That's prevented 100% of the time by ensuring that there's speed bumps, other traffic calming measures that reduce the speed at the point of a car entering into one of these zones.
Minister, is the timing of receiving the ticket the problem now? Like if the person were to receive the ticket sooner after the infraction, would that be a good fix?
Well, I think ultimately the best fix is to prevent speeding from happening in that zone at that moment. And a ticket that's being issued, whether you speed it up by a week, doesn't reflect the intended purpose of stopping speeding at that particular moment. So I think that's the focus Premier Ford and our government have, is how do we prevent individuals from speeding at all in these zones. So whether that's specifically in school zones and where these municipal speed cameras have been set up, that's what we want to focus the attention around, and that's what we want to work towards.
When you get caught by those cameras, there's a flash, like you know it right away.
Well, I wouldn't say in some circumstances, if you're in broad daylight, a lot of times you won't see that flash. Many examples I've heard from people getting tickets have had no idea until 3 weeks or 4 weeks later when they receive the ticket. So instead of a flash, instead of that person still speeding through that zone, let's just prevent it in the first place from happening at all.
Minister, can you clarify, are the speed cameras shut off as of today? Like, are there no longer going to be giving out tickets?
As the repeal of this legislation, upon this piece of legislation receiving royal assent, they will no longer be enforceable or valid within the province.
There were rallies across Toronto GTA today from parents. Does that give you pause at all to reconsider this, that hearing from so many people being outspoken about these?
Well, I think our purpose is to prevent the speeding in those zones, and I think our intention, everyone is well-intentioned in the fact that we want to stop speeding in these zones. We want to ensure that we have effective tools, effective measures. So we agree on the end purpose. I think, if we look at the variety of tools that we have, once again, there's only 37 municipalities that are using municipal speed cameras at the moment. There's the vast majority, over 400, that aren't right now. So there's other ways to combat this rather than punishing pocketbooks, and that's what we really want to focus on, of effective measures at the point of which a vehicle enters these zones. And so I think that's a view that's shared by all of those in this conversation, is safety around school zones, and that's what we want to look forward to and protect.
Circling back to red tape, I wanted to go into environmental protections a little bit, with the government having criticism from Bill 5. Are there any environmental concerns with cutting red tape and speeding up approvals for major projects?
Thank you for that question. So what this bill is about, when we talk about protecting Ontario and unleashing our entire economy, is looking at, across the enterprise, 332 permits, and how we can get those permits either eliminated or approved faster without jeopardizing the integrity of the environment or public safety. I mean, we are in a critical moment right now. We have to seize the moment. We have workers who are looking for work, and part of that is getting rid of the red tape that's standing in their way. Thank you.
For the health minister, do you want to elaborate?
Just to supplement my colleague, Minister Khanjin, on that, we are, under Bill 5, moving toward a registration first or permit by rule approach. And this means that when projects are shovel-ready, proponents can register and move forward. But strict compliance is absolutely going to be the rule of the day. And in fact, we've stepped up the investigative and enforcement powers for any proponent that might harm any species at risk. That actually is stronger enforcement powers with potential penalties that include jail time. So we're striking that balance just right, but the new culture of registration first or permit by rule is an important way to streamline to get things built faster.
I have a question for Mr. Harris. I understand you've been talking to the fisheries minister about Marineland's belugas. I'm wondering what you could tell the public about what the province is doing.
Yeah, obviously we're keeping a close eye on what's happening down in Niagara Falls at Marineland. Don't want to speculate right now about what's happening, but have had conversations with Minister Thompson. Good conversations about what we can do should Marineland be able to find some other suitable homes for these animals. We want to make sure that we're working in close collaboration with her to make sure that we can expedite anything that should come up over the next little while.
Are you guys helping at all?
I would say that we're certainly keeping an eye on what's going on. Obviously, Minister Kersner and the animal welfare folks have been down there. They've been doing some surveys of animals to make sure that they are, of course, in good condition, which reports have come back that they are. We're looking at matchmaking different partnerships that we can help build through provincial channels, and again, working with all parties involved to try and come to a good conclusion down in Marineland.
For the health minister, I'm just wondering if you can talk about some of the changes in this bill to fast-tracking the approvals for some of the health professionals mentioned. Why those health professionals specifically?
Yeah, great question. So it really is an expansion on something that we began almost 2 years ago, where we put in as of right rules for nurses and physicians, and it really allowed those individuals to be able to practice in Ontario immediately using their current in good standing license in another Canadian jurisdiction. And with today's introduction, we are now expanding that to another 16 regulated health professionals. And it's not a matter of poaching, recruiting from other Canadian territories and provinces. It's really an acknowledgement that if people want to be in Ontario, then we want to make sure there are no barriers to allow them to practice in their chosen profession.
Any concerns about them getting adequate training in this fast-track process?
So keep in mind, these are all individuals who already have licensures in other Canadian jurisdictions. So it allows them to immediately be able to start practicing in their chosen regulated health professional, an additional 16 with today's legislation, and they will continue to be under their current licensed school, and then as they have 6 months to be able to do the transition and get their current license up to date and approved in the province of Ontario. So these are all individuals who already train in other Canadian jurisdictions. We're just giving them the opportunity to immediately start working, and within that 6-month time period, the regulated health professional colleges will approve and go through their license.
Minister, can you address some of the controversy about the changes you've made for residency, the 2 years of high school required for international medical graduates? Some of the profession are saying that this will mean fewer doctors. They're also saying that it's unfair to do this right in the middle of the application process. Can you address those two points?
Absolutely. So as we expand primary care in the province of Ontario, we knew that there was some opportunities to make sure that additional training was also there. So, of course, we have added medical seats to every Ontario medical school in the province of Ontario. Northern Ontario School of Medicine actually has, in fact, doubled the amount of seats. We've also increased the number of residency positions available for people to apply for. So the change that we are making with the CARMS, the Canadian Resident Matching Service, is to say for that first round of CARMS, we want to make sure that there is a connection to Ontario, because data shows that individuals who have a connection to our province are far more likely to want to train and work in the province of Ontario. So the first round, and only the first round of CARMS, will now be held for individuals who have that Ontario connection. The second round and subsequent round of CARMS will be open to everyone, including international medical students. I think it's really important to understand that not only have we expanded the number of medical seats, expanded the number of residency positions, but we're also ensuring that students who have a connection to Ontario have that opportunity to come back and complete their medical training in Ontario.
But why in the middle of the application? Isn't it unfair these people have worked so hard to get it to?
Listen, it's one part of a application, and I will say again, it's only for the first round. Every subsequent round in CARMS will be available to every internationally educated student who is currently taking their medical training outside of Ontario and Canada.
Could one of the, Minister, maybe this falls under yours, since the Labour Minister doesn't appear to be here. I guess he's away. I guess he's in the legislature. The Labour mobility piece, that the Premier and the Prime Minister have talked a lot about Labour mobility, part of the agreements that your province has been signing with the other provinces and territories. Can you speak to the other professions, non-medical ones, since the Minister's not here?
So we've done a lot of work, and today's legislation bill, if passed, is part of it, saying, again, it's not about poaching, it's not about going into other provinces, it's saying if you want to live in the province of Ontario, then let's make sure there's no red tape to ensure that you can't work in the province of Ontario. And the work that the Ministry of Labour is doing on that, whether it's with the vast number of skilled trades that we know we need and will continue to need in the province of Ontario. Of course, in the Ministry of Health, a particular focus on the medical clinicians and the license piece. Look, we have 26 regulated health authorities in the province of Ontario, all with licensed medical individuals who get licensed to practice in Ontario. And I want to make sure that if people come to Ontario, there is not a barrier for that. And I have to say, I'm going to give a shout out to the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario, the College of Nurses of Ontario have done exceptional work in terms of making sure that there is no backlog, there is no delay. Individuals who are applying for a license in the province of Ontario are getting those approved, reviewed, approved within 10 days. It's really exciting to see how far our regulatory colleges have gone because they also appreciate and understand the need that we have.
Last question.
As Deputy Premier, I want to ask you whether you support still your colleague David Piccini in his role regardless of the controversies related to the SDF?
There is no doubt that the work that Minister Piccini is doing and has been doing, ensuring that we have the appropriate skilled labor in the province of Ontario is absolutely critical to our success as a government. Look, we cannot grow our economy if we do not have skilled employees out there ready to work. And that is the work that Minister Piccini has been doing, and I proudly support it. Thank you.